Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are the CEO and founder of the Cohen Leadership Group, which sounds very interesting. I'm really excited to hear all about it. Thank you for taking time to speak to the FWA members today, and we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about you and understanding your journey. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the Cohen Group, the company that you founded?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be in conversation with you. And the Cohen Leadership Group is a boutique leadership advisory firm. So we work with brands that are scaling quickly and or experiencing complex change, and we partner with them as an extension of their executive team typically to help them build the leadership capacity that's required to scale a sustainable company.
Awesome. Now, I saw your background. You have you're a lawyer and some other things. So, where did you find the inspiration for this type of work? It seems so interesting and so well needed. I could think of a couple of companies that could have used your advice.
There's a lot of need out there. Yeah, so I'll try to make the story as short as possible. I am a lawyer by background. I practiced commercial litigation for a decade before becoming a certified executive coach and launching this business 7 years ago. And I loved being a lawyer. I loved it. I'm a problem solver at heart. I love to work with leaders to solve hard problems. And there were a lot of things that were very aligned to my skill set in terms of the practice of law. Over time, litigation, is very zero-sum game. So it's very adversarial. There's always a winner and a loser. Usually no one's happy with the results. And it's not a terribly effective way to solve problems. It's very expensive. It can take a long time. There's a lot of, sort of energy leakage in the process. And so that started to wear on me. And then in addition to that, I would say what really propelled me out of the legal profession was, you know, I worked in a high pressure, high stakes environment. And so I know what that feels like and the toll that it can take on people, especially when you're not really reinvesting in those people. And at the end of the day, I felt like it really didn't matter how well I was doing my job or how many trials I won or how happy our clients were with us. It was all about how many hours I billed. And that was just such a dehumanizing experience for me over time. And I won't say that there was any like one moment where I was like, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. But I would say there was kind of a building low grade fever that was sort of rising slowly over time. And especially, I have two kids right now, they're 8 and 11, but 7 years ago, you can do that math. And so I would say they're not the reason that I left the legal profession, but for me, being a working mom really caused me to reevaluate my priorities and my values and the way that I was spending my time when I was away from my kids. And so I started to feel like, I really want to make an impact on the world. I really want to make work better. This model is broken. It's not okay for us to spend a third of our lives at work and feel like we're putting everything in and, that energy is not coming back to us. And so that's ultimately what led me to explore what else I could do. Everybody says you could do anything with a law degree. So that was sort of, I think I Googled at one point, what can you do with a law degree? But I went on a whole journey of self-discovery and really thinking through like what really energizes me and what really drains me and what skills do I feel most alive when I'm using and what things, would I be okay to never do again? And that led me to executive coaching. So I became a certified coach while I was still practicing law, and it just made me feel totally alive in a way that I hadn't felt in a very long time. And I just thought, gosh, there's such a need for this for other people who feel like me inside of organizations. And so I think people have this idea that I sort of like woke up one day and was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I have no aversion to risk. I'm just going to jump out this window and like hang out a shingle. That is not what happened. It took a while to build a plan and to get my ducks in a row. But ultimately I did. And in 2019, I left after trying my last case and I launched my practice. So that's kind of the journey of how I got to where I am. And now I get to work with leaders and with teams to help not just build their company in a way that is sustainable, but feels good for the people on the inside, right? Like I get to live at the intersection of business and people, and that's a really cool space to be.
I love that. My word at FWA is authenticity, and I've worked with coaching, and I think anytime you can invest in yourself and really listen to your, I always call it listening to my belly, right? Like this doesn't feel
Mm.
right. It feels like I could do more. That's so inspirational. What's the biggest challenge of being a leader in something like this? Like, is there any big surprises about how it's going for you?
Well, I would say my firm has evolved over the years. So when I started out, it was just me and I was just offering one-on-one executive coaching. And over the years, what I learned pretty quickly is you can help one person and that's amazing and you can create a lot of impact that way. But if that person is still living in an environment and an ecosystem that is unhealthy, then your impact is limited, right? And so I started to take a more systemic approach and a systemic focus on leaders and teams inside of companies. And so that's really become our focus over the last, I would say, 4 or so years. And as we've shifted that focus, I learned that the need is too big for any one person to service. And so I've grown a team. And our team, we have 8 practitioners. We all have, we're all certified executive coaches, but we all have our own sort of unique special area of expertise. And we work together as a team in service of our clients in a way that makes sense and sort of like a, 1 + 1 = 3 kind of impact. But as far as leading my team goes, yeah, of course, there are always surprises. And it's sort of like holding up a mirror because I help leaders every day. That's what we do in our work. And then when you're the one in the hot seat doing the work, right? You're like, oh gosh, this feels different when it's you. And I think, as any company grows, including our boutique firm, you have growing pains. And so it's just, kind of reevaluating at every milestone. Okay, what does the company need right now? What do our people need right now? What do I need as a leader? What do people need from me and vice versa? And so I think you got to constantly tune in. And I would say the surprise, if anything, is that in the early days, I thought that I was trying to like figure it out. And what I've learned is like you never really figure it out. You're always figuring it out.
Absolutely.
And so anyone who says they've got it all figured out is just lying. Or has stopped growing, right? Because I think it's just any entrepreneur knows that, it's a journey and you're never finished figuring it out.
I love it. What about mentors for you? We do a lot of mentorship, advocacy for women in FWA. Do you have mentors or have you had mentors that have helped you kind of stay aligned on what you're doing? Anything on
Mhm.
that topic?
Yeah, I think that that's really, really important, especially as an entrepreneur. It can be really lonely. And, whereas I used to work in a corporate law firm and there was always someone above me kind of guiding and leading and setting that vision, even if we were doing that in partnership, when you're the person at the top, it's really difficult and challenging. So, early on, I had a mentor whose business looks a lot like mine does, but she's always been like 3 years ahead of me. So she's been really instrumental in just guiding me towards like what's just the next right step. And so that's been really beneficial. And then I've gotten a lot of training in various areas over the years that I've invested in terms of, I have a mindset coach and a strategy coach. I've done some training in, you could call it, let's just call it business development, because that was not such an intuitive area for me. Once someone kind of teaches me, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, but it's not sort of a natural skill of mine. So yeah, I've made a lot of investments in my own growth and development, at various places. And that's a challenge too, right? There's so many different things you could do and so many areas to grow into. You kind of always have to be evaluating like what's the right investment right now that's just going to take us just to that next level. So I really believe deeply in mentorship and in coaching, obviously, and making investments in yourself, even if it's just setting aside time to read and learn or, attend webinars or continuing education, things like that, I think are really, really, really helpful.
I love that. And there's so many different places that we can get that information nowadays. What would advice would you give to someone who's got this little idea in their head and they're thinking about it? That first step or that overcoming that first fear of, am I worthy? Am I capable? Could I do this? I think
Mhm.
that's a stumbling block for a lot of people is that initial work. Any insights there?
Yeah. I would say if you have an inner knowing, trust that and go for it. I would say attach yourself to people who believe in you because not every day, I think to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to have sort of an irrational belief in yourself and your ability to be successful. But that's not necessarily like a steady belief. Sometimes it comes and it goes. Some days you're like, shoot, am I cut out for this? So I would say being a part of a community where people can lift you up and cheer you on and give you insight or mentorship or whatever that looks like in those moments where you need it. And I'm a part of several communities like that where, we have sort of that symbiotic push and pull where I'm having a hard day, they lift me up. They're having a hard day. We're sharing information, sharing resources. So I would just say, do it, listen to your inner knowing. It's not easy. So just know that going in, it's like you see people who look successful, but you didn't see them push the boulder all the way up the hill. So if that's how it's feeling to you, keep going, keep pushing, and connect yourself to people who can really support you along the way.
Love this, Lauren. This was really great to get to know you. What an inspirational story. And you must be doing amazing work in what you
Thank
do. And you
you.
seem so happy and connected with what you're doing, which I think is so important in life. Like you said, we spend a third of our life, right? Working. We need to be
Yeah,
connected to it. So I just want to thank you for taking the time today to speak to the FWA members. And we're so happy to have you amongst our group. So thank you so
thank
much.
you for having me.